Is Cassie the real villain in the Diddy trial? Let's talk about it. Let's chop up some real game right now. Because everyone's talking about Diddy like he's the ultimate boogeyman. But nobody want to answer the real question. What if Cassie was down with the whole thing? What if Cassie is the real villain in all this? Now, before you get all emotional, sit down, light some sage, and let's deal with the facts, not the feelings. First off, let's stop pretending Cassie was some innocent, naive little R&B chick that got swept up into the dark side. That's the narrative the media loves to push, that pretty victim trope. But we're not doing that here. Over here, we break things down from a position of logic, game, and player insight. And the reality is, Cassie was deep in the mix. She wasn't just a passive bystander. She was organizing these so-called freak-offs. That's not speculating. That's what was admitted in court documents. She was the one making the calls, setting up things, bringing in the men. So hold up. How are you the victim and the event planner? That's like the getaway driver crying about bank robbery later. Make it make sense. See, this wasn't some one-night incident. This was a lifestyle. This was a whole culture Cassie was knee-deep in for over a decade, 13 years. You don't stay in that kind of situation unless you're benefiting from it. She was flying private, living in mansions, rocking couture fashion, walking red carpets. She had access, power, and fame. That's a far cry from someone trapped in a basement chained to a radiator. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying Diddy didn't do some wild, possible criminal stuff. He's got to deal with that on his own. What I'm saying is, let's stop pretending like Cassie was blind to what was going on. She wasn't a victim in the shadows. She was a participant in the spotlight. Now, here's where the game gets deep. After leaving Diddy, she marries her personal trainer. Now, no disrespect, but come on, let's keep it real. That ain't an upgrade financially. That's a step down in power, access, everything. The lifestyle changed. Money slowed up. The show bookings dried up. That Hollywood energy wasn't hitting the same way. So what's the move? Boom. Here comes the lawsuits. She files this explosive civil suit, and within 24 hours it's settled. Diddy drops $20 million on the table, like it's hush money in a poker game. Just like that, no deposition, no court dates. Why? Because he's not trying to fight a PR war when his brand is already bleeding over the Ciroc and the whole Diageo thing. But guess who wins big in that moment? Cassie. And it didn't stop there. She also got a $10 million bag from the hotel where the beatdown happened. So now she's sitting pretty on $30 million just for not going public and the promise of not testifying, which she eventually did. Let me ask you something. Does that sound like justice, or does that sound like a high-stakes shakedown? Look, I've been in this game long enough to see patterns, and what I see here is someone who was down with the program while the money was flowing. But the moment the cash stopped, the narrative switched. It became, I was manipulated. I'm a victim. I was traumatized. That's convenient, real convenient, you know what I mean? I know some of y'all females are going to say, well, she was young, she was groomed, she was scared. Listen, that argument falls flat when you consider that she was recruiting the freak-off men. That's not fair. That's not being brainwashed. That's being an executive assistant to madness. See, this new era got everybody thinking accountability is optional. We celebrate exposure more than truth. Whoever cries first gets believed. Whoever gets the bag gets labeled brave. But this situation with Cassie, this ain't bravery. This was strategy. And don't think her husband wasn't part of that strategy either. You don't go from doing squats in the background to advising lawsuits unless you've been coached up. Think about it. He had a front row seat to everything. You think he didn't encourage this? You think they didn't game plan the whole rollout? Drop the lawsuit, let the media run wild, secure the bag, and try to fade into the shadows? And that's exactly what happened. They didn't want justice. They wanted a payout. Look, in the world of Hollywood, everything's transactional. Love, loyalty, even trauma. If you can flip your past into a brand, then you can flip it into a lawsuit, then into a docuseries. You can live forever without ever hitting the stage again, and that's what we're seeing here. Cassie turned her story into a settlement, not a movement, not a fight for others, not even a court battle, just a private wire transfer and a gag order. She ain't trying to empower women. She's trying to restore her lifestyle. And you know what? That's her right, but let's call it what it is. This whole Diddy situation is bigger than just him. It's about a culture of convenience, a culture where you can be part of the chaos, benefit from it, and then play victim when the checks stop coming. I ain't here to defend Diddy. He has to answer for those 2 charges he's found guilty of himself. But what I am doing is asking y'all to stop sipping every glass of wine that's poured, because a lot of it is spiked with lies, agenda, and dollar signs. Cassie played the long game, and she played it well. So while the media paints her as the wounded dove that escaped the bad boy, remember, sometimes the quiet ones got the coldest game. Sometimes the victim is just the one who flipped the script first. Stay woke, not emotional. You gotta peep the game for what it is and take off the lame colored glasses. That's why I wrote the book Straight Game No Chaser, How to Become a Player. With Straight Game No Chaser, you'll become a player who commands respect, attracts women effortlessly, and plays the game on his term. This is more than just a dating guide. It's a blueprint for becoming the strongest, most authentic version of yourself that you can be. You can either go to www.adosagame.com to grab it, or click the link below in the comments section. I'll holler at you guys in the next video, but until then, play on, player.